Number: Earth's unrelenting response shocks the entire Galactic Council. The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from over 300 star systems gathered for what many considered the most important session in millennia. Ambassador Zex Tai of the Corellian Empire adjusted his ceremonial robes, the bioluminescent patterns flickering with anxiety. Across the chamber, the insectoid hive queen Zizakth clicked her mandibles in what passed for contemplation among her species. At the center of the Great Hall stood a holographic display showing a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Earth, the newest addition to their galactic community, and already the source of unprecedented controversy. "The motion before this council is clear," announced High Chancellor Vorthak, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically. "The human species has demonstrated capabilities that fundamentally threaten the established order of our civilization. Their military response to the Zeltharian raid was..." He paused, searching for words. "Excessive." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Zeltharian Confederacy had been one of the Council's most respected military powers for over 2,000 years. Their disciplined fleets had maintained peace across 17 sectors. When they had conducted what they called a routine compliance assessment of Earth's defenses, it was supposed to be a simple demonstration of galactic authority. Nobody expected what happened next. Commander Thelos, of the Zeltharian Third Fleet, had approached the human homeworld with standard protocol. A modest force of 50 warships, enough to demonstrate superiority without causing unnecessary destruction. The humans had been members of the galactic community for barely 6 months, and like all new species, they needed to understand their place in the cosmic hierarchy. The first surprise came when the humans refused to submit to inspection. Most new species either surrendered immediately or offered token resistance before accepting their subordinate status. The humans did neither. Instead, their representative, Admiral Sarah Chen, had transmitted a simple message: "You have entered Earth's sovereign space without permission. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The audacity had been breathtaking. Thelos had actually laughed, a sound like grinding metal that echoed across his ship's bridge. 50 Zeltharian warships represented more firepower than most civilizations could muster. Each vessel was a kilometer long, armed with plasma cannons that could crack continental plates and shielding that had never been breached in recorded history. "Deploy the humans' own historical records," Thelos had ordered his tactical officer. "Show them the fate of species that resist galactic authority." The holographic display had filled with images of conquered worlds, broken fleets, and subjugated peoples. It was psychological warfare at its finest, designed to break the enemy's will without firing a shot. The humans had watched in silence for exactly 37 seconds. Then Admiral Chen had responded with something that would haunt galactic military academies for generations to come. "Thank you for the tactical briefing on your previous enemies. We've learned much about your capabilities and weaknesses." What followed defied everything the galactic community thought they knew about warfare, technology, and the very nature of conflict itself. The humans hadn't built traditional warships when the Zeltharian fleet began its attack, expecting to face primitive fusion rockets and kinetic weapons. They instead encountered something that challenged the fundamental assumptions of space combat. Earth's defensive fleet consisted of only 12 vessels, each roughly half the size of a Zeltharian cruiser. The disparity in numbers should have made the battle a massacre. Instead, it became a nightmare that would reshape galactic military doctrine forever. The first human ship to engage was designated Terra 7 by Zeltharian sensors. It moved unlike anything they had ever encountered, accelerating and changing direction with an agility that should have liquefied any crew inside. When Thelos ordered concentrated fire on the vessel, something impossible happened. The ship didn't dodge the plasma barrage. It absorbed it. "Energy readings are... This can't be correct," his sensor operator had reported, mandibles clicking with confusion. "The human vessel is converting our weapon's energy into additional power for its own systems." Before anyone could process this information, Terra 7 had returned fire. Not with plasma or particle beams, but with something the Zeltharians had never seen before. Streams of what appeared to be controlled gravitational distortion rippled through space, warping reality itself around the Zeltharian ships. The first cruiser to be struck simply ceased to exist in any meaningful way. Its atomic structure was rearranged at the quantum level, transforming a kilometer of advanced military engineering into an expanding cloud of component elements. The crew didn't even have time to scream. "Impossible," Thalos had whispered. "No species develops gravity manipulation technology. The energy requirements alone would drain a star." That's when Admiral Chen's voice had echoed across the communication channels again. "You assume we're limited to conventional energy sources. You assume we think like you do. You assume we play by your rules." The battle that followed lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it ended, the Zeltharian Third Fleet no longer existed. 49 warships had been systematically dismantled. Their crews offered precisely one opportunity to surrender before being eliminated with surgical precision. Commander Thelos himself sat in the sole surviving vessel, his once proud flagship stripped of weapons and engines, life support functioning only at the human's discretion. The final transmission from Admiral Chen had been broadcast on frequencies that reached every inhabited system within 50 light-years. To any who would threaten Earth or humanity, understand this clearly. We did not seek this conflict. We attempted diplomacy. You chose violence. This is what violence with humanity looks like. Choose differently. Now, 6 weeks later, the Galactic Council faced an unprecedented crisis. The humans hadn't simply defeated a major military power. They had done so using technology that violated several fundamental laws of physics. Worse, intelligence reports suggested that Earth's defensive fleet represented less than 5% of their total military capability. "The question before us," High Chancellor Vorthak continued, his voice heavy with the weight of decision, "is whether humanity represents an evolution of galactic civilization or a threat to be eliminated before they grow stronger." Ambassador Zextai rose to speak, his crystalline form catching the chamber's ambient light. "With respect, Chancellor, I believe we're asking the wrong question." The humans demonstrated remarkable restraint. They could have pursued and destroyed our observation fleets throughout the sector. Instead, they returned to their homeworld and have made no aggressive moves beyond their own system. A harsh buzzing filled the chamber as Hive Queen Zizakth expressed her disagreement. "Restraint born of wisdom, or restraint born of preparation? My intelligence drones report massive construction projects throughout the human system. They're building something, and given their demonstrated capabilities, we must assume it represents a threat to galactic stability." The debate that followed would continue for days, but already the seeds of a decision were taking root. Humanity had shattered the carefully maintained balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia. They possessed technology that made traditional warfare obsolete and had demonstrated a tactical ruthlessness that unnerved even the most militaristic species. Unknown to the assembled representatives, their debate was being monitored by sensors so advanced that their presence couldn't be detected by any known technology. Deep within Earth's solar system, Admiral Chen reviewed the intelligence reports from the Galactic Council with grim satisfaction. "They're scared," she remarked to her chief science officer, Dr. Marcus Webb. "Good. Fear breeds caution, and caution might prevent unnecessary bloodshed. What if they decide we're too dangerous to exist?" Webb asked, adjusting the holographic display, showing fleet movements throughout the local galactic arm. Chen's smile was cold as the vacuum of space. "Then they'll learn why humans don't just survive extinction-level events, Marcus. We thrive because of them." Outside the viewports of the command station, construction continued on projects that would have seemed like fantasy to any galactic civilization. Humanity's response to contact with galactic society hadn't been to seek acceptance or integration. Instead, they had begun preparing for the number Earth's unrelenting response. The Council's decision. 3 months had passed since the Zeltharian incident, and the Galactic Council chambers had become a pressure cooker of political tension. Representatives who had once debated trade routes and mining rights now found themselves grappling with questions that challenged the very foundation of their civilization. The humans had not merely defeated a military force. They had demonstrated that everything the galactic community believed about warfare, technology, and power was fundamentally flawed. High Chancellor Vorthak called the emergency session to order with heavy hearts. The decision they were about to make would determine the fate of an entire species, and possibly the future of galactic civilization itself. The intelligence reports are conclusive, announced General Crixon of the Thanatari War Council, his reptilian features grim with purpose. Human military construction has accelerated beyond all previous projections. Our deep space reconnaissance drones have detected energy signatures that dwarf the output of Class A stars. Whatever they're building, it represents a quantum leap beyond even their demonstrated capabilities. The holographic display in the chamber's center shifted to show long-range sensor data from the human system. Even filtered through multiple security protocols, the readings were staggering. Massive construction projects orbited every significant celestial body in the Sol system, from Mercury's industrial complexes to vast installations in the Oort cloud that seemed to manipulate space-time itself. Ambassador Yel Nara of the Serenity Coalition, her ethereal form shimmering with distress, rose to speak. We must consider the possibility that humanity's actions are defensive in nature. They've made no attempts to expand beyond their system or threaten neighboring civilizations. Perhaps their preparations are simply insurance against future aggression. Insurance? General Crixon's laugh was like grinding stone. My military analysts have run every projection imaginable. The energy output from human construction projects suggests they're building enough firepower to sterilize half the galaxy. That's not defense. It's preparation for conquest. The debate had raged for weeks, but behind the political theater, a more sinister consensus was emerging. The moderate voices calling for patience and diplomacy were being steadily overwhelmed by those who saw humanity as an existential threat that needed to be eliminated before they grew too powerful to stop. What none of the council members knew was that their supposedly secure chambers were under constant observation. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, Earth's leading expert in quantum espionage technology, watched the proceedings from a facility buried 3 kilometers beneath the Alps. Her expression grew grimmer with each passing hour. They're going to vote for preemptive strike, she reported to the Global Defense Council, her voice tight with controlled anger. The motion will pass by a margin of approximately 60%. Fleet mobilization will begin within days. Admiral Chen received the report while reviewing the final stages of Project Prometheus. Humanity's response to what everyone had known was an inevitable threat. How long do we have? Since. Conservative estimates suggest 6 weeks before the first attack waves reach our system. They're assembling a force from 17 different military powers. Combined fleet strength will exceed 5,000 warships. The number was staggering. No civilization in recorded galactic history had ever faced such overwhelming force. The assembled fleet would represent enough firepower to crack planets and extinguish stars. It was overkill on a cosmic scale, designed to ensure that humanity would be completely eliminated without the possibility of resistance or escape. Admiral Chen's response was a smile that would have chilled the blood of anyone who saw it. 6 weeks. That's more time than we need. Across the solar system, the true scope of humanity's preparations began to reveal itself. The projects that had so concerned galactic intelligence were indeed beyond anything previously imagined, but not for the reasons the aliens suspected. Humans hadn't simply advanced their technology. They had transcended conventional understanding of science itself. While galactic civilization had spent millennia perfecting variations of the same basic principles, humanity had taken a completely different approach to the fundamental problems of existence. The key had been Earth's unique position in the galaxy. The planet sat at the intersection of several dimensional barriers that other species couldn't even detect, much less exploit. Human scientists had discovered that consciousness itself could be used as a catalyst for manipulating the quantum substrate of reality. What appeared to be technology to outside observers was actually something far more profound. The weaponization of human will itself. Dr. Webb stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's defense forces, his presentation displaying concepts that would have driven most galactic minds to madness. The enemy fleet represents approximately 5,000 individual vessels, each crewed by between 50 and 500 beings. Total enemy personnel, roughly 1.2 million individuals from 17 different species. Our response? Asked General Patricia Morrison, Earth's supreme military commander. 12 ships, 36 crew members total. The silence in the briefing room was absolute. Even knowing humanity's capabilities, the disparity seemed impossible to overcome. Dr. Webb continued, seemingly oblivious to the shock around him. The Prometheus-class vessels represent our final evolution in military technology. Each ship exists in 17 dimensions simultaneously, drawing power directly from the quantum vacuum. Their weapons systems don't fire energy or matter. They fire pure entropy, essentially aging target vessels into non-existence. Crew requirements are minimal because the ships interface directly with human consciousness. A single operator can coordinate tactical decisions across multiple dimensions of space-time simultaneously. The enemy will be fighting not just our ships, but the focused will of humanity itself. Admiral Chen took over the briefing, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. The Galactic Council has made their decision. They view us as a threat to be eliminated rather than a species to be welcomed. We offered them peaceful coexistence. They've chosen extinction-level warfare. Our response will be proportional to their intent, not their capabilities. They're bringing enough force to destroy us completely. We're bringing enough force to ensure that decision has permanent consequences for galactic civilization. The final preparations took exactly 37 days. When the massive galactic fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, they found humanity waiting for them. The combined armada was a sight to inspire awe and terror in equal measure. Warships from across the galaxy formed perfect attack formations, their combined mass creating gravitational distortions that bent light around them. Command ships the size of small moons coordinated the movements of thousands of vessels, each one capable of independently destroying entire solar systems. At their head flew the Eternal Conquest, flagship of Grand Admiral Thexmore of the United Military Coalition. The massive vessel had served as the command center for galactic military operations for over 3,000 years. Its armor had never been scratched. Its shields never penetrated. Its crew never defeated. Human vessels detected, reported the tactical officer, his tentacles dancing across control surfaces with practiced precision. 12 ships, total mass, approximately equivalent to a single heavy cruiser. Grand Admiral Thexmore studied the tactical display with confusion. After months of intelligence reports describing unprecedented military construction, the human fleet seemed almost pathetic. 12 small vessels facing an armada that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Are we certain these represent their total defensive capability? He asked. Long-range scans detect no other military vessels in the system, Admiral. These appear to be their entire fleet. Something about the situation felt wrong to Thexmore. But his orders were explicit. Humanity was to be eliminated completely. Their homeworld sterilized. Their species reduced to cosmic dust. The Galactic Council had voted, and he was their instrument. All ships, engage primary targets. Secondary objectives are 2. His words were cut off as space itself began to change around them. The 12 human ships had moved into formation. But instead of advancing to attack, they had simply stopped. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality began to unravel. The first sign was the way light behaved near the human vessels. Instead of traveling in straight lines, photons began following impossible paths, bending through dimensions that shouldn't exist. The tactical displays, showing the galactic fleet's positions, started displaying paradoxical readings. Ships occupying multiple locations simultaneously. Admiral, the sensor operator's voice carried a note of panic. I'm detecting massive temporal distortions throughout the engagement zone. The human ships appear to be operating outside normal space-time. Before Thexmore could respond, Admiral Chen's voice echoed across all communication frequencies. To the combined fleets of the Galactic Council, you have traveled far from your homes to exterminate my species. You bring overwhelming force to ensure our complete destruction. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. I am Grand Admiral Thexmore, he replied, his voice carrying the authority of 3 millennia of military tradition. By order of the Galactic Council, humanity is declared a threat to G-Number, Earth's unrelenting response. The new Galactic Order. The battle for humanity's survival lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, the course of galactic civilization had been permanently altered in ways that would take centuries to fully understand. Grand Admiral Thexmore found himself alone in the command center of the Eternal Conquest, staring at tactical displays that showed something unprecedented in the history of galactic warfare. Of the 5,000 warships that had entered the Sol system with absolute confidence in their overwhelming superiority, exactly one remained functional. His flagship drifted powerless in space, life support maintained solely through human mercy. The combined military might of 17 civilizations had been systematically dismantled by 12 ships and 36 crew members. It wasn't just defeat. It was a demonstration that everything the galactic community thought they knew about conflict, technology, and the nature of reality itself was fundamentally incorrect. Status report, Thexmore commanded, his voice hollow with shock. All fleet communications are offline, reported his surviving tactical officer. Long-range sensors detect approximately 4,999 debris fields where our ships once operated. Crew survival rates appear to be 0%. The number struck Thexmore like a physical blow. Over 1 million beings from across the galaxy, vaporized in less than 5 hours. The most powerful military force ever assembled, reduced to scattered atoms drifting through the void. It was genocide on a scale that defied comprehension. How? Was all he could manage. The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Chen's image materialized in the command center, her presence transmitted through technology that bypassed every security protocol the Eternal Conquest possessed. "You're asking the wrong question, Admiral," she said, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to press down on Thexmore's very soul. "The question isn't how we destroyed your fleet. The question is why we allowed you to survive." Thexmore straightened, calling upon 3 millennia of military tradition to face his defeat with dignity. "To deliver a message to the Galactic Council." "I assume." "Partially correct," Admiral Chen acknowledged. "You will indeed carry a message. But first, you need to understand what you witnessed here today." The holographic display around Thexmore shifted, showing the battle from perspectives no galactic sensor could have captured. He watched in stunned silence as the 12 human ships demonstrated capabilities that violated every known law of physics. The vessels didn't simply move through space. They moved through dimensions of reality that other species couldn't perceive. When galactic ships fired their most powerful weapons, the humans didn't dodge or defend. Instead, they redirected the attack energy backwards through time, causing enemy vessels to be destroyed by weapons that technically hadn't been fired yet. "Temporal warfare," Admiral Chen explained, as if discussing the weather. "Your civilizations never developed it because you assume causality flows in one direction. Humans learned to think differently, but that was only the beginning." As the battle progressed, the human ships began demonstrating increasingly impossible capabilities. They fired weapons that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, created gravitational fields that turned space itself into a weapon, and manipulated the quantum structure of reality to transform enemy vessels into pure energy. "The Prometheus-class ships aren't really technology as you understand it," Admiral Chen continued. "They're extensions of human will made manifest through our unique relationship with consciousness and quantum mechanics. Every shot fired, Every tactic employed, every strategic decision was made by human minds operating beyond the limitations of three-dimensional space. Thexmore watched recordings of his own ships being systematically eliminated, each one destroyed by methods that seemed to mock the very concept of scientific possibility. Entire battle groups simply ceased to exist as human weapons reached backwards through their timeline and prevented their construction. Others were transformed into alternate versions of themselves that had never been designed for war. But the most important thing for you to understand, Admiral Chen said, her image stepping closer, is that everything you witnessed represents restraint on our part. Restraint? Thexmore couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. You eliminated 99.98% of our force. We eliminated your ships, Admiral. Had we chosen to eliminate your species, every world under Galactic Council authority would currently be experiencing what you might call existence failure. Your planets would be forgetting how to maintain atomic cohesion. Your suns would be developing amnesia about nuclear fusion. The casual way she described cosmic-level destruction sent chills through Thexmore's exoskeleton. This wasn't boasting. It was a simple statement of capability, delivered with the same tone one might use to discuss lunch plans. The message you'll carry to the Galactic Council is this: humanity sought peaceful coexistence. We offered trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation. The Council chose war. This is what war with humanity looks like when we exercise restraint. Admiral Chen's image began to fade. But her final words echoed with the weight of inevitability. Tell them they have one opportunity to reconsider their position. The next fleet sent against humanity will not receive the courtesy of survivors. The journey back to galactic space took 3 standard months, during which Thexmore had time to process the magnitude of what had occurred. The reports he filed would reshape galactic civilization's understanding of warfare, technology, and humanity's place in the cosmic order. When the Eternal Conquest limped into Council space broadcasting emergency signals, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Every major government demanded immediate briefings. Military analysts across the galaxy worked frantically to understand how such a complete defeat was possible. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of Thexmore's arrival. The great chamber that had once buzzed with confident debate now hummed with barely controlled panic as representatives grappled with reports that challenged their fundamental understanding of reality. The tactical recordings are clear, General Crixon announced, his usual confidence replaced by barely concealed terror. The human fleet demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't exist. They manipulated time, space, dimension, and consciousness itself as weapons of war. High Chancellor Vorthak reviewed the data with growing horror. The energy requirements for such capabilities should exceed the output of multiple star systems. How are they powering these weapons? That's not the right question, interrupted Dr. Zal Thex, the Council's chief scientific advisor. Based on the tactical data, I don't believe they're using external power sources at all. The humans appear to be drawing energy directly from the quantum vacuum, possibly through mechanisms we don't even have theoretical frameworks to understand. The implications settled over the chamber like a gravitational wave. A species that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself, that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute constraints, that had demonstrated the ability to eliminate overwhelming opposition while exercising what they claimed was restraint. Ambassador Yelnara of the Serenity Coalition rose to speak, her ethereal form flickering with patterns that conveyed deep distress. The question before us is no longer whether humanity represents a threat. The question is whether our civilization can coexist with beings who operate beyond our understanding of possible. Coexistence? General Crixon's voice carried outrage. They destroyed over 5,000 warships. They eliminated the combined military might of 17 civilizations in less than 5 hours. And they allowed Admiral Thexmore to survive to deliver their message, Yelnara pointed out. If their capabilities are as absolute as the data suggests, that survival represents a deliberate choice, they're offering us an opportunity to reconsider our relationship. The debate that followed would continue for days, but the outcome was inevitable. Faced with evidence of humanity's overwhelming superiority, the Galactic Council had only one realistic option. The formal declaration was transmitted to Earth exactly 1 week after the battle. The Galactic Council hereby recognizes the sovereign independence of humanity and formally withdraws all territorial claims within the Sol system. We request immediate diplomatic negotiations to establish peaceful coexistence protocols. The response from Admiral Chen arrived within minutes. Request accepted. Diplomatic protocols will be established under the following terms. Humanity will share beneficial technologies with member civilizations that demonstrate commitment to peace. Any future acts of aggression against Earth or human interests will result in the complete dissolution of hostile governments and the reconstruction of their societies under human guidance. Welcome to the new galactic order. We hope you'll find it more peaceful than the last one. Across the galaxy, species that had ruled star systems for millennia found themselves adjusting to a new reality. Humanity had announced itself not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the ultimate arbiters of cosmic justice. Wars that had raged for centuries came to abrupt ends, as civilizations realized that continued conflict might draw unwanted attention from Earth. Trade routes shifted to accommodate humanity's new position at the center of galactic power. Scientific academies restructured their curricula to incorporate concepts that humans had apparently mastered. Military colleges began teaching courses on asymmetric warfare and the limitations of conventional force projection. And deep in the Sol system, construction continued on projects that would ensure humanity's response to any future threats would be even more unrelenting than what the galaxy had already witnessed. The age of galactic arrogance was over. The age of human guidance had begun. Galactic stability. Surrender is not an option. Withdrawal is not possible. You will be eliminated. We having the prosting. We having to the nother. We having the prosting. We having the prosting. We having the prosting. We having the prosting. We having. Admiral Chen's response came after a pause that seemed to stretch across eternity. You have made your choice. Learn the difference between threat and annihilation. The universe exploded into chaos as 12 human ships began to demonstrate why humanity had never developed a word that adequately translated as surrender. Inevitable conflict that their very existence would provoke. The Galactic Council could debate humanity's fate for as long as they wished, but deep in the solar system's asteroid belt, in hidden shipyards scattered throughout the Kuiper Belt, and in research facilities that existed in dimensions the galactic community hadn't yet discovered, humanity was preparing to give their answer to any decision the Council might reach, and that answer would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization.